welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my September TBR. I'm extremely excited for my September TBR because it's kind of like the major kickoff for me for like spooky books, witchy books, just kind of like atmospheric fall type of book. So I'm extremely excited to be getting into these. I have 22 books in this TBR, which might be ambitious. It could also be realistic. It just depends on kind of like how I'm feeling for the month. I also very recently got these like TBR prompt cards. So I'm extremely excited to like shuffle them, randomly pick one and figure out a book that fits that prompt. I'm really excited to kind of start the like super popular TBR prompt jar, although mine isn't in a jar. I'll only be picking like 1 or 2 cards per month as opposed to doing my whole TBR coming from prompts. So that kind of like allows for me to pick my own books and plan what I want to read and plan videos ahead of time. So yeah, I'm very excited to be picking these. And then for my September TBR, I have different genres. I'm going to leave timestamp so you can kind of just skip ahead to whatever genre you would rather watch. So I have some romance. Most of it's like paranormal romance or has some sort of like witchy element to it, but I decided to just keep them all in romance as opposed to like having multiple romance subgenre categories. I also have fantasy, I have a few graphic novels, I have some thrillers, and I think I have one straightforward middle grade, but it's also fantasy. So it's kind of all over the place, but I will figure it out with the timestamps and what to call them all. And yeah, so let's just get started. I think for this video, I'm going to start with my regular TBR and then I will pick one of the prompt cards at the end. I'm not sure where I want to start. I just kind of have the books scattered around me in different piles. And so let's just kind of start with thrillers, I think. So this one is a YA thriller that I'm very excited about and it's called One House Left. It just recently came out the other day and I'm very, very excited about it. It says that it's kind of like R.L. Stine meets urban legend. And it also just sounds like extremely creepy, as well as having the potential to be like very atmospheric. So in this one we have our main character Nate. He's 16 years old and he's from a town that's kind of known for their street called Murder Road. And on Murder Road, every couple years for almost 6 decades, there's a house that's targeted and everyone inside is murdered. So Nate and his family move to a different town, kind of flee the curse. However, then Nate becomes friends with this like group of people and they are really into like urban legends and like spooky stuff that goes on. So he's kind of just being pulled back into that. I don't know much more than that. The synopsis isn't giving too much, which I'm really happy about. But on the cover it says, "Ready or not, whatever you do, the hiding boy is coming for you," which is extremely creepy. And I am very excited about it. So that is One House Left. The next book that I have comes out at the end of September and it's The Hitchcock Hotel. This one I'm so excited about. I have seen mixed reviews, but I'm still very excited about it. In this one we have our main character Alfred and he owns, manages, and runs this hotel called The Hitchcock Hotel. He caters it for fans of Alfred Hitchcock. He offers like round-the-clock movie screenings. He has memorabilia. It's kind of just dedicated to Alfred Hitchcock and like his movies. And then he decides to invite some of his college friends. They were part of like a film club and they haven't seen each other in 16 years since what happened. And like, we don't know what that was, obviously. And so I'm really excited to kind of see what happened. And then I think based on the synopsis, someone ends up dead, but I'm just very excited for this. Like I said, there has been mixed reviews, but there always is. And so I'm just excited to kind of go into this one and see what I think. The next one I have is Horror Store by Grady Hendrix, and this one I've been wanting to read for years. I don't know why I haven't. So it's set at a store that's essentially IKEA, and the employees think it's haunted, and the inside of the book is kind of set out as if it's like an IKEA catalog, and then it's just like filled with like instruction type looking things, and I'm really, really excited to read it. So the employees think it's haunted, and so a couple of them decide to stay overnight and just kind of monitor it, see what happens. This one says it's a haunted house mystery set in a contemporary setting. I love Grady Hendrix and I can't wait to kind of see how this one plays out and just kind of like what it's all about. The last like thriller mystery I have is a cozy mystery called Death Overdue. This one is part of the Haunted Library mystery series and it's the first one. We have our main character Carrie. She lives in Connecticut and she just got a job as a librarian at like the local library. However, it comes with like the resident library ghost, and then her first like program event that she's running involves a local detective. I think he might be retired, but he claims to know who killed this woman that died like many years ago and it's a cold case. And then Carrie wants to figure out like what happened to the detective, why did he die, how did he die, and she kind of just goes into it. I get the vibe that she might think that someone wanted him dead so that he couldn't expose who killed the woman that was killed like many years ago. I love cozy mysteries, and I love like Halloween-y one, and I also love books about books. So yeah, I'm very excited for Death Overdue. I think I'm gonna go into romance next. So I'm gonna start with You Again, and this one came out last fall and I really wanted to read it, but I never got around to it, so I'm very excited to be finally picking it up. This one is enemies to friends to lovers, and our main characters, one of them is like a commitment phobe and the other one's like extremely type A. They met years prior, and then fast forward a few years later, they meet again. I think they're kind of like friends with benefits. However, then as they're spending time together, they're realizing that they might have more in common and they enjoy each other's company more than they thought. And yeah, so I'm very excited to finally pick this one up. I've heard amazing things about this one, and the cover is just like quintessential fall. The next one I have is The Fall of Whit Rivera, and this one is YA and it sounds super cute. We have our main character Whit, and she was dumped by her boyfriend Zay in like apparently a super embarrassing way. And then they're paired up to plan homecoming together. She is really not happy about it, and she doesn't think that they can plan it together just because like she hates him. However, as they're spending time together, she's wondering like maybe this was all just a miscommunication. And yeah, so it seems like it might be a second chance romance, and it sounds really cute. The next one I have is My Vampire Plus One, which is the sequel to My Roommate is a Vampire, and this one I loved last year, so I'm very excited to read My Vampire Plus One. In the first one we have Frederick, so the second one like stars his best friend from the first book, and I'm really excited. His friend seemed like super funny and like crazy and just over the top, so I'm very excited to kind of see what happens here. In this one we have Amelia, and she's invited to yet another wedding and she doesn't have a plus one, so she decides to fake date Reggie and invite him as like her date to this wedding and maybe like a few others, I'm not sure. And I love the fake dating trope. I find it so fun. It's usually funny and heartwarming as well as they get to know each other. So I'm really interested to see how this plays out. Like I said before, in the first book, Reggie is like a very funny best friend side character. So I'm really interested to see like his character development and growth. The next one I have is the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, and this one is kind of like the sequel or follow-up to the Pumpkin Spice Cafe that came out last year. So in this one we have Hazel, and she runs the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore. One day she comes across someone, an anonymous person is leaving clues in some of the books that she sells as like a scavenger hunt, I think, type of thing. So she enlists her friend Noah, who is like a local fisherman, to help her figure out these clues and go on this almost like scavenger hunt type thing. They're spending more time together, and I feel like there's a theme with these where people are spending time together and things might grow from that. But yeah, so I'm very excited. I loved the Pumpkin Spice Cafe when I read it last year, so I'm very happy to kind of be going back into this town called Dream Harbor, I believe. So I'm really looking forward to this one. I think if it's anything like Pumpkin Spice Cafe, it's going to be like very cute and just fall atmospheric small town vibes. I also want to read Witches Get Stuff Done, which I believe is on Kindle Unlimited. I have Big Witch Energy, and this one is the sequel to Witches Get Stuff Done. So I really want to get into that one so I can read this one in October, hopefully, or maybe I'll fit it into September if I really like the first one. So in this one we have a main character, Riley, and she just moved to the small town called Starfall Point. Since she entered the town, she has felt like magic inside of her. So then she discovers that she is a witch. So as a new witch, she's kind of trying to figure out her powers and what's going on. She only has her late great aunt's like notes and stuff to go on to kind of learn all about her powers and everything to do with like being a witch. She's living in a house full of ghosts. She's getting into verbal battles with like the local hot librarian. So I think that paired with like her being a new witch, she's like feeling overwhelmed. She wants to seek out a coven to kind of guide her and help her out. She's getting closer to this librarian who I think is helping her out. I'm not sure like what's going on with that, and I don't want to know. Like, I don't know if it's more in the synopsis, but I kind of stopped reading the synopsis because it was very long and I was like, this is getting spoilery. So that's all I know about this one, and I'm very excited. It's also on Audible Plus in like their Plus catalog, so if you have the membership, then it's like included in it for free. I might go back and forth between the Kindle version and the audio and just kind of see how it goes. I'm very much looking forward to this one. It actually kind of sounds like a cheesy like fall Halloween Netflix movie, which I'm like obsessed with. And then lastly, I really want to finish my reread and like annotation of Twilight and then move on to New Moon in September. I want to finish annotating both of those by the end of September. I have about 100 pages left in Twilight, so I'm just really looking forward to these. I put Twilight and New Moon under like the romance category, but it is going to lead me into the next one, which is fantasy. Okay, so my first fantasy is Sorceress Comes to Call, and this is actually going to be my first T. Kingfisher. I've wanted to read T. Kingfisher books before, but I've just never got around to it. But with this one, the new release, I'm very much looking forward to it. I don't really want to go into this one too much because I really want to go in blind, but just based on the back, there's a little blurb that says, it's a dark reimagining of the Brothers Grimm's The Goose Girl, rife with secrets, murder, and forbidden magic. So just based on that alone, I'm very much excited. I've seen so much buzz around this book. I've seen really good things about it, and I don't know anything about the Goose Girl, so I'm really going in blind here, but I'm trusting how much everyone loves T. Kingfisher, so I'm assuming I'll probably love this one too. The next one I have is Caraval, and this one I'm actually buddy reading with a fellow booktuber, and I'm very excited to finally start this trilogy. I really want to read this trilogy and then go into the spin-off trilogy, which I think is called like Once Upon a Broken Heart. I can't remember, but I'm very excited to finally get to this one. I feel like I'm one of the last people to read this. So I'm just gonna read like the first 2 sentences on the Goodreads synopsis. And it says, a legendary competition, a mesmerizing romance, an unbreakable bond between 2 sisters. Scarlet Dragna has never left the tiny island where she and her sister Tella live with their powerful and cruel father. However, now Scarlet's father has arranged a marriage for her, and Scarlet thinks her dreams of seeing Caraval, the faraway once-a-year performance, where the audience participates in the show, are over. But this year, Scarlet's long-dreamt-of invitation finally arrives. This one is a YA fantasy, but I've heard amazing things. It has almost 600,000 ratings on Goodreads with an almost like 4-star average. And yeah, like I've said, I've heard just amazing things about this. People seem to be like obsessed with this book and this trilogy and the spinoff. So I'm very excited to see what I think of it and just kind of see what it's all about. The next one I have comes out in September, and it's called The Gods Below. And this one sounds extremely exciting. It sounds like it's going to be a really good epic fantasy. This author is pretty well known. Her name is Andrea Stewart, and she wrote like the Bone Shard Daughter and that trilogy, so I'm really looking forward to reading this one. I haven't read that trilogy, but I've heard so much about it. This one is about a war that has left like humanity in ruins. So out of desperation, they strike a deal with this devious god to kind of restore humanity and like the world. However, then they are indebted to him. Because of this debt, like all the people were transformed into different creatures and animals, I believe. So our 2 main characters are sisters, and they decide they don't want that. So the 2 sisters flee the land. They're just kind of on the run. They don't know where they're going. They don't have a plan, but they just know that they don't want to stick around and, you know, turn into these creatures. And then just quickly on the back, it says, it's a sweeping tale of warring gods, loyalty, betrayal, and a world in turmoil. So I'm really looking forward to this one. It seems like a unique premise, at least to me. I haven't read anything like this, so I'm really looking forward to diving into this one. The next one I have comes out near the end of September, and it's called A Fire in the Sky. This one is a romantasy, and it has dragons, so I immediately was like, okay, I need to read this. So at the beginning of this one, dragons are extinct, witches are immortal, but human blessed for power is immortal. So that sounds so intriguing to me. I really want to dive right into this one. It seems like there's a political arranged marriage between the princess and this like brutal warrior. That's kind of where I stopped reading, and just based on those things, I think I'm gonna absolutely love this one, and I can't wait to read it. And then lastly for fantasy, I recently read The Hobbit as like a buddy read with my dad, and now we are going to be reading Lord of the Rings. We're gonna start this in September, but it's probably gonna take us like a little while to get through it. It's not gonna be like a just reading in September type of thing. I really want to take my time with this. He's already read it, but it's been a very long time, and I'm just super excited. And then it's the matching edition to the one I have for The Hobbit, so I'm just very excited to have this. And it's the illustrated edition with Tolkien's like original illustrations put in here, so I'm just over the moon to be starting this, to finally read it. I have seen the trilogy thousands of times, no joke, so I'm just very much looking forward to this. Lastly, I have some graphic novels, so I really want to read the 2nd volume of Heartstopper, and hopefully the 3rd if I can get my hands on it. So I'm just very much looking forward to this. I loved the first one so much. I recently read it finally, and I really just want to get through all of the volumes that are currently out, and then I can watch the show. Next is the first volume of Hooky, and this one is a middle grade, and it is so cute. There's two twins and a prophecy. I saw there's something about dragons. They have wanted posters posted up about them. They get into like a lot of like hijinks, it says. So I'm really looking forward to reading this one. There's a couple volumes out, so I'm hoping that if I like this one, I can get into the second in October. And then I also really want to read Sheets volumes 2 and 3. I recently read volume 1, so I'm really looking forward to getting into 2 and 3. These ones are definitely like more sad, or at least the first one was a lot more sad and like dark and deeper than I originally thought, but I loved it so much. I had a friend warn me. She's like, I know you're not like in a great mental place right now, so maybe hold off on Sheets for a little while, just because it's probably not what you're expecting. And she was right, and so I'm glad I waited. But yes, so I recently read it, and I'm very much excited to get into 2 and 3. I have them from Libby, so I like to get graphic novels from Libby or Kindle Unlimited or Everend and just read them on my iPad. It's how I read Webtoon as well. So yeah, I'm very excited for those graphic novels. Oh, and then I have one last book, and it's a middle grade, and it is called A Tale of Magic, and this one is a series. Maybe it's just a trilogy. I can't remember, but there's more than just this one book, and I'm so excited for this one. In this one, magic is outlawed, and then our main character, Bristol Evergreen, is at the library one day, and she finds out that she has magic. She's like a fairy. However, she doesn't want anyone to know because she'll be sent to this like correctional facility where everyone goes when they're found out that they have magic. She is then scouted by this woman who runs like a secret magical academy. I believe it's secret, and she's recruited to go there. So I love like a magical academy, especially for middle grade or YA. So I'm really looking forward to this. The cover is also like extremely cute. Okay, so now I'm going to pull one of these TBR cards. I'm going to just shuffle them and pull one randomly. They are the fantasy edition of these deck of cards. However, when I was going through them, I saw that a lot of them could just be general books, multiple genres. So I'm really excited, and let's just kind of shuffle them and pull one out. So I'm not cheating. I am just going to shuffle them. I don't have a jar that I can just like toss them around and like mix them up because they won't fit. Okay, so this one I'm going to pull out, and it's your next book is part of a trilogy. Okay, so a book that's part of a trilogy. I have a couple on this TBR already. Okay, so I picked one, and I'm gonna go with Belladonna. I'm lucky because the third one just came out called Wisteria, and I've wanted to read this one for a very long time, so I'm happy that I'm finally getting to it. This one is a YA, and our main character's name is Signa, and everyone in her life ever since she was a baby has pretty much just like met an untimely death. So her parents have passed away, and she's just been kind of living life going through from guardian to guardian, and like I said, they've all just met like untimely deaths. So she goes to this like gloomy estate owned by the Hawthorns, which are like distant relatives of hers, I believe. And there's two siblings and a dad, and they're all mourning the death of the mom and the wife. However, then the spirit of the mom shows up. I believe she goes to Signa and says that she was poisoned. So Signa realizes that pretty much the rest of the family could be in danger, and she wants to figure out like who poisoned the mom and why. There's also an element of this like shadow creature that's always kind of been by her side called Death, and she realizes that her connection with this death shadow monster may be stronger than she's always thought. And yeah, so I'm excited that I picked this one. Okay, so that is my September TBR. It is lengthy, it is ambitious, but I'm gonna try my hardest to stick to it. I'm actually very excited. I'm going to try really hard to stick to the TBR this month, as opposed to just doing like whatever I want. So I'm going to try my hardest to stick to the TBR this month. It is a really good one, and it's going to be a good way to kind of stay on top of my very lengthy fall TBR. I'm going to be filming that in the next few days and posting it, and it has a ton of books on it that I'm very excited about. Some of these are from my fall TBR, so you will see them on there. So I'm excited to film and post the fall TBR, and I will see you guys again soon. Bye!